What if the man who brought tap dancing back to life left behind more than just memories? Gregory Hines, the smooth-talking performer who charmed millions, died with a shocking secret that his family kept hidden for years. His abandoned house holds clues to a fortune that vanished, a career that crumbled, and a death that still raises questions today. From Harlem streets to Broadway dreams. In 1946, when most American families were celebrating the end of World War II, Alma Hines gave birth to a son who would one day save an entire art form from extinction. Gregory Oliver Hines entered the world on February 14th in New York City, but his family's Valentine's Day gift came with a harsh reality check. They were poor, living in Harlem during one of the neighborhood's toughest decades. Gregory's father, Maurice Sr., worked as a musician, but steady gigs were hard to come by for a black performer in the 1940s. His mother, Alma, took on whatever work she could find, often cleaning houses for wealthy families on the Upper East Side. The Hines family lived paycheck to paycheck, sometimes not knowing where their next meal would come from. But something magical happened when Gregory was barely 2 years old. His older brother, Maurice Jr., was already showing promise as a tap dancer, and little Gregory started mimicking his moves. Alma noticed that Gregory had a natural rhythm that seemed to flow through his entire body. When he heard music, he couldn't help but move. By the time Gregory was 4, he and Maurice had formed a duo called the Hines Kids. Their mother saw this as more than just cute childhood play. She saw it as their way out of poverty. Alma began taking her boys to auditions, often traveling across the city on crowded subway trains with their tap shoes stuffed in paper bags. The Hines Kids started performing in nightclubs and small theaters throughout New York. Picture this: 2 young boys, sometimes the only children in venues filled with adults drinking and smoking, tapping their hearts out on stages that were bigger than their entire apartment. Gregory would later remember feeling scared but excited, knowing that every performance meant his family could eat that week. Alma made incredible sacrifices to support her sons' careers. She worked double shifts and saved every penny she could for dance lessons, new shoes, and costumes. She would sit in the back of smoky nightclubs until 2 in the morning, making sure her boys were safe while they performed for audiences who sometimes barely paid attention. Gregory's natural talent began to shine through even at this young age. He could pick up new steps just by watching other dancers, and he had a smoothness that made difficult moves look effortless. Other performers started to notice the little boy who could make tap dancing look like pure joy. What none of them knew was that this same joyful energy would one day make Gregory a millionaire, and then leave him nearly broke and forgotten in a house that would become a symbol of fame's cruel promises. When tap dancing became cool again. By 1978, tap dancing was practically dead in America, dismissed as old-fashioned entertainment that belonged in nursing homes, not on Broadway stages. Then Gregory Hines stepped into the spotlight in a musical called Eubie, and everything changed overnight. The show celebrated the music of Eubie Blake, a ragtime composer, but it was Gregory's explosive tap dancing that stopped audiences cold. Night after night, theater-goers who had never seen real tap dancing before watched in amazement as this 32-year-old performer made the stage seem to catch fire under his feet. Critics called his performance electrifying and a revelation. But Gregory's real breakthrough came 3 years later with Sophisticated Ladies, a tribute to Duke Ellington's music that opened on Broadway in 1981. This time, Gregory wasn't just part of the ensemble. He was the star. His performances in Sophisticated Ladies earned him a Tony Award nomination and turned him into a household name almost overnight. What made Gregory different from other tap dancers was his ability to make the art form feel modern and exciting. He mixed traditional tap with jazz, blues, and even hip-hop influences. Young people who had never cared about tap dancing suddenly found themselves mesmerized by his smooth style and infectious energy. Hollywood took notice. In 1984, Gregory landed his first major film role in The Cotton Club, directed by Francis Ford Coppola. The movie showcased his dancing alongside his dramatic acting abilities, proving he was more than just a Broadway performer. 2 years later, he starred opposite Mikhail Baryshnikov in White Nights, where his tap dancing scenes became some of the most memorable moments in dance film history. Gregory's impact on popular culture was impossible to ignore. Before him, tap dancing was something your grandmother might have enjoyed. After him, it became cool again. Dance studios across the country reported surges in enrollment as young people wanted to learn the moves they saw Gregory performing on screen. Television brought Gregory into American living rooms in a whole new way. When he joined the cast of Will and Grace in 1998 as Will's boyfriend, millions of viewers fell in love with his charm and wit. His recurring role earned him multiple Emmy nominations and introduced him to an entirely new generation of fans. Gregory had achieved something remarkable. He had taken a dying art form and breathed new life into it. Tap dancing was no longer just entertainment for older audiences. It was vibrant, modern, and exciting again. But success in Hollywood and on Broadway comes with a price that Gregory was just beginning to understand. The higher you climb, the further you can fall. Living the high life at career peak. During the late 1980s and early 1990s, Gregory Hines was worth more than $3 million and living like the superstar he had become. Money flowed into his bank accounts from Broadway shows, Hollywood movies, television appearances, and endorsement deals that seemed to multiply every month. Gregory's lifestyle reflected his newfound wealth in spectacular ways. He owned a collection of luxury cars that would make any celebrity jealous, including a sleek Mercedes-Benz and a custom Porsche that he loved driving through the Hollywood Hills. His closet was filled with designer suits from the most expensive tailors in New York and Los Angeles, each one perfectly fitted to complement his tall, elegant frame. The awards and recognition kept coming. Gregory received multiple Tony Award nominations throughout his career, winning hearts even when he didn't take home the trophy. His performances were consistently praised by critics who recognized his unique ability to blend traditional tap dancing with contemporary style. He wasn't just entertaining audiences anymore. He was making artistic statements. Gregory's influence on younger dancers became legendary in the entertainment world. Aspiring performers would travel thousands of miles just to watch him rehearse or take one of his master classes. He mentored countless young artists, sharing techniques that had taken him decades to perfect. Many of today's most successful dancers credit Gregory with inspiring their careers and teaching them that tap dancing could be both athletic and deeply emotional. As a cultural ambassador, Gregory represented American dance on the world stage. He performed for international audiences, appeared at prestigious festivals, and worked with renowned choreographers from around the globe. His performances helped introduce tap dancing to countries where it had never been seen before, expanding the art form's reach in ways that seemed impossible just a decade earlier. Gregory's expensive hobbies reflected his sophisticated tastes and growing wealth. He collected rare jazz recordings, some worth thousands of dollars each, and filled his homes with artwork from emerging and established artists. His real estate investments included properties in both New York and California, each one carefully chosen for its potential to appreciate in value. The Venice mansion that would later become abandoned was purchased during these golden years, representing the pinnacle of his success. The house featured a private dance studio where Gregory could practice for hours, entertaining rooms where he hosted industry parties, and luxurious amenities that showcased his arrival at the top of the entertainment world. Friends and colleagues remember Gregory during this period as generous, confident, and seemingly unstoppable. He had money, fame, respect, and influence. Every project he touched seemed to turn to gold. But even at the height of his success, there were subtle signs that this golden period wouldn't last forever. The entertainment industry was changing, and staying at the top required constant reinvention. The first cracks in the foundation. The late 1990s brought a cruel reality that Gregory Hines never saw coming. Broadway was moving away from the kind of entertainment that had made him famous. Musical theater was embracing flashier productions with elaborate sets and pop-influenced scores, leaving less room for traditional tap dancing showcases. Producers began looking for younger performers who could appeal to teenage audiences, and Gregory, now in his 50s, found himself competing with dancers half his age. The phone calls from casting directors became less frequent, and when opportunities did arise, they often went to performers who looked better in marketing photos than they danced on stage. Gregory's business ventures, which had seemed so promising during his peak years, started turning sour. He had invested heavily in a dance studio chain that promised to bring tap dancing to suburban communities across America. The concept was solid, but the execution was flawed. Studios closed one by one, draining tens of thousands of dollars from his savings account. His real estate investments, once a source of pride and financial security, became burdens as property values in some areas declined. The maintenance costs on his multiple properties ate into his monthly income, and he found himself making mortgage payments on houses that were worth less than what he owed. More troubling were the physical changes Gregory began experiencing. His knees, which had endured decades of intense tap dancing, started showing signs of serious wear. Some mornings, he would wake up with stiffness that took hours to work through. The explosive energy that had defined his performances became harder to sustain, and audiences occasionally noticed when his stamina flagged during longer numbers. The most devastating blow came when Gregory lost out on a major Broadway revival that seemed perfect for his talents. Industry insiders whispered that the producers felt he was too old for the role, choosing instead a dancer 30 years younger who had trained in Gregory's style but lacked his experience and artistry. Gregory's representatives tried to spin these setbacks as temporary obstacles, but the pattern was becoming clear. Hollywood was interested in him for character roles rather than leading man parts, and Broadway was moving toward a new generation of performers. Friends noticed changes in Gregory's demeanor during this period. The confident, charismatic performer who had once commanded every room he entered seemed more cautious, more aware of his limitations. He still performed brilliantly, but the sense of invincibility that had carried him through his golden years was beginning to crack. The financial pressures were mounting, but Gregory kept up appearances, maintaining his expensive lifestyle even as his income decreased. He couldn't imagine that these early warning signs were just the beginning of a downward spiral that would eventually leave him nearly broke. Inside, the house that fame built. The Venice mansion that Gregory Hines purchased in 1992 was supposed to be his castle, a symbol of everything he had achieved through decades of hard work and talent. Instead, it became the most expensive mistake of his life, slowly strangling his finances until he could barely afford to keep the lights on. Located in one of Venice's most exclusive neighborhoods, the house sprawled across nearly 4,000 square feet of luxury living space. 4 spacious bedrooms and 5 full bathrooms gave Gregory plenty of room for guests and family visits. The crown jewel was his private dance studio, a massive room with professional-grade mirrors covering every wall, and a custom-built wooden floor designed specifically for tap dancing. Gregory spared no expense during the initial renovations. He installed a state-of-the-art sound system throughout the house, complete with speakers hidden in the walls and ceilings. The entertainment rooms featured custom-built bars, imported marble countertops, and lighting systems that could be adjusted for any mood or occasion. The master suite included a walk-in closet, larger than most people's bedrooms, and a bathroom with a jacuzzi tub that cost more than many people's cars. The outdoor spaces were equally impressive. Gregory had landscapers create a private garden with rare plants and trees, plus a swimming pool area perfect for hosting industry parties. Every detail reflected his success and his desire to create a space worthy of his status as a Broadway and Hollywood legend. But as Gregory's income began to decline in the late 1990s, the mansion transformed from a dream home into a financial nightmare. The monthly mortgage payments alone consumed a huge chunk of his shrinking earnings. Property taxes, maintenance costs, and utility bills for such a large house added thousands more to his monthly expenses. Gregory found himself trapped. He needed the house to maintain his image in an industry that judged success by appearances, but He could barely afford to keep it. Repairs went undone, and luxury features that had once impressed guests began showing signs of neglect. Today, 20 years after Gregory's death, the Venice mansion tells a haunting story of fame's fragility. Neighbors report that the house has been largely abandoned, with overgrown gardens and broken windows visible from the street. Urban explorers who have managed to get inside describe a scene that would break Gregory's heart. His beloved dance studio with cracked mirrors and warped flooring, entertainment rooms filled with dust and debris, and personal belongings scattered throughout rooms that once hosted glamorous parties. The most eerie discovery visitors mention is Gregory's old tap shoes, still sitting in the dance studio as if he had just finished practicing and planned to return the next day. The house that was supposed to represent his triumph has become a monument to how quickly fortune can disappear. This mansion wasn't just draining Gregory's bank account, it was about to reveal just how desperate his financial situation had become. How $3 million disappeared. Between 2000 and 2003, Gregory Hines watched his fortune evaporate with terrifying speed, losing nearly 90% of his wealth in just 3 years. What happened during this period reads like a financial horror story that no one saw coming. The decline started in early 2000 when Gregory's work opportunities began drying up faster than anyone expected. Broadway shows that might have featured him went to younger performers, and Hollywood roles became scarce as the industry shifted toward action movies and teen-focused entertainment. His annual income, which had once exceeded $500,000, dropped to less than $100,000 by 2001. Meanwhile, his medical expenses were skyrocketing. Gregory had been hiding health problems for months, visiting doctors and specialists while trying to maintain his public image. The treatments, medications, and multiple hospital stays cost tens of thousands of dollars, much of it not covered by insurance. Friends later revealed that Gregory was spending over $3,000 per month on medical care alone. The Venice mansion became a financial anchor, dragging him toward bankruptcy. His monthly mortgage payment was nearly $8,000, plus property taxes, maintenance, and utilities that added another $3,000 to his monthly expenses. Gregory was hemorrhaging over $10,000 every month just to keep his house, while his income had dropped to a fraction of what it used to be. The most heartbreaking part of Gregory's financial collapse was watching him sell the treasures of his career to pay basic bills. Auction houses and collectors began acquiring his personal memorabilia, costumes from his most famous Broadway shows, awards and trophies that had once filled his trophy cases, and even some of his beloved tap shoes. Each sale represented another piece of his legacy, disappearing to cover mortgage payments and medical bills. Gregory tried desperately to keep up appearances, borrowing money from friends and taking out loans against his properties. He refinanced the Venice mansion multiple times, each refinancing adding more debt to his already overwhelming financial burden. Credit card bills mounted as he used plastic to pay for groceries and basic living expenses. By 2002, Gregory was essentially broke, despite still owning valuable real estate. The house that had once symbolized his success had become an expensive prison he couldn't afford to keep, but couldn't afford to sell either, especially with the real estate market declining. When Gregory died in August 2003, financial experts estimated his net worth at only $200,000, most of it tied up in properties with massive debts attached. The man who had once been worth over $3 million left behind more obligations than assets. The speed of his financial collapse shocked everyone who knew him. But Gregory's money problems were about to become the least of his worries, as his health took a devastating turn that would end everything. When the music stopped forever. On August 9, 2003, at 9:30 in the morning, Gregory Hines took his final breath in a Los Angeles hospital room, surrounded by family members who had been keeping a devastating secret for months. The man who had spent his life in the spotlight chose to face his darkest moment in complete privacy. Gregory had been battling liver cancer since early 2002, but he told almost no one about his diagnosis. Even close friends and colleagues had no idea he was fighting for his life. He continued working when possible, attending industry events, and maintaining the public persona that had defined his career, all while undergoing aggressive treatments that left him exhausted and weak. The cancer had been discovered during routine medical tests related to his ongoing health problems. Doctors told Gregory that the disease was advanced and his prognosis was not encouraging. But true to his character, Gregory chose to fight the illness with the same determination he had brought to every challenge in his life. During his final months, Gregory spent increasing amounts of time in and out of hospitals. His daughter Daria became his primary caregiver, coordinating treatments and staying by his bedside during the worst moments. His brother Maurice, who had shared the stage with Gregory since childhood, flew in from New York to be present during the final weeks. The last month of Gregory's life was spent primarily at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center in Los Angeles. Family members took turns maintaining a bedside vigil, reading to him, playing his favorite music, and sharing memories of their time together. Gregory remained alert and engaged with his loved ones until very near the end, even managing to joke and tell stories when his energy allowed. Gregory's final wishes reflected his desire for privacy and dignity. He specifically requested that news of his illness not be made public until after his death, wanting to spare his fans and colleagues the pain of watching his decline. He also insisted on a small, private funeral service with only immediate family and closest friends in attendance. When the announcement of Gregory's death was made public on August 9th, the entertainment world was stunned. Most people had no idea he was even sick, let alone fighting a terminal illness. The news hit Broadway and Hollywood like a thunderbolt, with many celebrities expressing shock that such a vibrant, energetic performer had been battling cancer in secret. The private funeral service was held 3 days later at a small chapel in Los Angeles. Only about 50 people attended, including family members, a few close friends from the entertainment industry, and some of the young dancers Gregory had mentored over the years. Gregory's death marked the end of an era, but it also raised questions about what would happen to his legacy, his debts, and the Venice mansion that had consumed so much of his final years. The world says goodbye to a legend. Within hours of Gregory's death announcement, his daughter Daria released a statement that brought tears to the eyes of everyone who read it. "My father taught me that dancing was like breathing, something you had to do to stay alive. Today, the music stopped, and we're all learning how to breathe without him." Daria's grief was compounded by the overwhelming responsibility of handling her father's affairs while mourning his loss. She had to deal with his mounting debts, the Venice mansion's financial problems, and hundreds of condolence messages from around the world, all while trying to process the death of the man who had been her hero and closest friend. The entertainment industry's reaction was immediate and emotional. Eric McCormack and Deborah Messing from Will and Grace released a joint statement calling Gregory the heart and soul of our show family. McCormack later revealed that Gregory had continued filming episodes even while receiving cancer treatments, never letting on how sick he truly was. Broadway legends lined up to pay tribute to the man who had saved tap dancing from extinction. Savion Glover, who Gregory had mentored, said he felt like he had lost a father. Ben Vereen called Gregory the bridge between the old masters and the new generation. Theater marquees across New York dimmed their lights in his honor, a tribute usually reserved for only the most significant losses in the Broadway community. Public memorial services were held in both New York and Los Angeles, drawing thousands of fans, performers, and industry professionals. The Broadway Memorial at the Majestic Theater featured performances by dancers who had been inspired by Gregory's work, each one trying to capture a piece of the magic he had brought to the stage. Gregory's death sparked conversations about how the entertainment industry treats aging performers. Many pointed out that while Gregory was struggling financially and battling cancer, he had no comprehensive health insurance or retirement support from the industry that had made millions from his talents. His situation highlighted the harsh reality faced by many performers who find themselves forgotten as trends change and younger artists take center stage. Perhaps the most touching tributes came from ordinary fans who shared stories of how Gregory had changed their lives. Dance teachers wrote about students who discovered their passion after watching Gregory perform. Parents described children who started tap dancing because they wanted to move like Gregory. One letter from a young dancer read, "Gregory Hines made me believe that my feet could tell stories, and now I'm going to spend my whole life learning his language." The outpouring of love and respect showed that Gregory had touched far more lives than anyone realized. But even as the world celebrated his legacy, difficult questions remained about what would happen to his abandoned mansion and the debts he left behind. What fame leaves behind. 20 years after Gregory's death, his Venice mansion stands as a haunting reminder of how quickly fame can turn to forgotten tragedy. The house that once hosted glamorous parties and echoed with the sounds of tap dancing now sits largely abandoned, its windows boarded up and its gardens overgrown with weeds that reach the second-floor balconies. After Gregory's death, his family struggled to maintain the property while dealing with massive debts and legal complications. The mortgage payments continued even though no one was living there full-time. Within 2 years, the house had fallen into foreclosure proceedings that dragged on for months, leaving the property in legal limbo. During the years of abandonment, the mansion became a target for vandals and urban explorers. Graffiti now covers walls that once displayed Gregory's awards and photographs. Squatters have broken in multiple times, leaving behind trash and damage that would cost hundreds of thousands of dollars to repair. The swimming pool that once sparkled during industry parties is now filled with stagnant water and debris. Local neighbors report strange incidents over the years. Sounds of tap dancing coming from the empty house late at night, though security cameras show no one inside. Whether these are urban legends or the building settling, the stories have given the property an eerie reputation that makes it even harder to sell. Gregory's story serves as a stark warning about fame's temporary nature and the importance of financial planning. He had millions of dollars at his peak, but failed to prepare for the inevitable changes that come with aging in the entertainment industry. His situation illustrates how quickly a successful career can collapse when health problems, changing trends, and poor financial decisions converge. Efforts to preserve Gregory's legacy have been more successful than attempts to save his house. The Gregory Hines Foundation, established after his death, provides scholarships for young dancers and helps fund tap dancing programs in underserved communities. Dance schools across the country teach his techniques and philosophy, ensuring that his artistic contributions won't be forgotten even if his mansion crumbles. The Smithsonian Institution has acquired some of Gregory's costumes and tap shoes for their entertainment history collection, giving future generations a chance to understand his impact on American culture. Several documentary projects and biographical books have kept his story alive for new audiences who never saw him perform. But the abandoned Venice mansion remains the most powerful symbol of Gregory's story. It represents the price of fame, the importance of planning for the future, and the harsh reality that success in entertainment can disappear as quickly as it arrives. Gregory Hines brought joy to millions of people and saved an entire art form from extinction. His legacy lives on in every tap dancer who performs today, but his empty house serves as a sobering reminder that even legends need to prepare for life after the spotlight fades.